Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello to you and welcome back to the channel where you join me on a beautifully sunny winter's day in the Eifel Mountains near to the Nürburgring, where today I'm going to be driving and showing you the new Arden AJ23 SVR. It's based of course on the Jaguar F-Type SVR, except this has 700 horsepower. So today, let's take a look around, talk about the modifications, then we'll jump in, go for a drive, and when we get back, I'm going to take you on a virtual reality tour of the interior in VR180. So grab your Google Cardboards if you've got them. If not, be sure to click around the screen and use your phone to move it about, and we'll be able to see the interior in a totally new way. So let's get started and check out the Arden AJ23 SVR. A few years ago, I visited Arden's HQ to take a look at the first generation of the AJ23. Now at the time, it was based on the rear-wheel drive F-Type R, but since then, Jaguar have introduced new models to the F-Type lineup, including the flagship all-wheel drive SVR. Hence, today, the AJ23 SVR, AJ for Arden Jaguar, 23 as it's their 23rd project now on Jaguar models, and of course, the SVR model, the top of the line that even in base trim is already quite a wild beast to be tamed, in this case even more so. So we've got a 5-litre supercharged V8. In stock form it has 575 horsepower and 700 newton meters of torque. In the AJ23 SVR, those numbers are taken up to 703 horsepower, 128 more than stock, and 875 newton meters. On that front, 175 newton meters more torque than the base model of the car. You've got an 8-speed automatic gearbox. Of course, it's all-wheel drive in this model, 4-wheel drive. So no doubt, it's going to be quite a fascinatingly quick thing to experience very shortly. Visually, as you can see looking around the car, there are a number of more aggressive components, some carbon fibre bodywork towards the lower sections. You've got new 21-inch wheels all around. It's also sitting slightly lower than the standard car. And at the rear, you will notice the quad carbon fibre tailpipes, 2 on each side, which we're going to be hearing quite shortly to get the noise of the thunderous V8, which, believe me, sounds pretty good inside this car. At the rear, beneath the SVR badge, we have the Arden logo. You've also got a few yellow accents to contrast against the black of the paintwork, and you can see the aggression actually of the diffuser back here. That's the standard part from the SVR. But if we continue around, we can take a look at some of the components they've installed. For example, the add-on back here, the carbon fibre attached to the rear bumper. In fact, the track of the car is just slightly wider to house their new 21-inch wheel around it. Also at the side skirt, we've got an additional add-on here, just adding more aggression basically to the appearance of the car, making it sit lower, sit wider, sit more aggressive, particularly actually around the front with those enlarged air vents scooping in more air, and also the front grille itself. They've removed the centre section and basically added a new grille behind that gives more of the appearance of the Project 7, which just looks a little bit cooler, exactly what the car needed. And you can also see the Arden badging and stripes running the length of the bonnet too. If we come round actually, take a look at the door handle. They've also put the Arden logo here inside the door handle itself. Actually, we should go around to the other side so I can open up the engine bay and just talk a little bit more about what we have right here. So on the inside, down here in the footwell, if we just release this, one thing I've always liked about the F-Type is that the bonnet actually opens forwards. How cool is that? So you can't see too much. In fact, Jaguar don't put a cover on the SVR engine bay at all because of heat, of course, with this much power, even in the stock car with 575 horsepower, and particularly in this car with 700. But that is our 5-litre supercharged V8 up front, slightly mounted over the front axle. But basically, the power plant that is going to be sheer entertainment. So let's close this back down for now. Just drop it, I think, into place like so. Then I should really take a step inside here and get it started up so we can hear the noise that it makes. On the inside, actually, they've also done a few other changes. For example, the top rolls of the doors, they've finished in Alcantara to match with other components on the interior. You've got the Arden embroidery on the headrest of the seats too. But otherwise, the SVR already had quite a nice finish. They've introduced some new trims that you have for the centre section as opposed to the carbon fibre you'd normally have, and this looks really cool. But basically, keyless system, start-stop button, so let's bring it into life. Now that sounds very good, and you get the needle sweep as well on both sides of the display. So despite appearances today, it may be very sunny, and in fact, this is quite nice too, the glass roof above us, but it is absolutely freezing. So let's stay in the car, keep warm, and take it out now for a drive to see what the Arden AJ23 SVR is like on the road. This is of course not the first time that I've driven a Jaguar F-Type. I've driven the AJ23 back when it launched. In fact, a couple of years ago I actually spent a few months with an F-Type V6S, and I've also driven a couple of F-Type Rs along the way too, but this is by far the most powerful F-Type I've ever driven. 700 horsepower and that almost 900 Newton meters of torque figure. So I'm driving at the moment actually in the normal kind of default setup. So regular as opposed to dynamic driving mode. You have a couple of different driving modes you can toggle between. Automatic on the 8-speed ZF gearbox. We've also got the exhaust valve closed at the moment too, but you do get a sense each time you press the throttle pedal of a lot going on behind you. The sounds of the supercharger, the exhaust, the burbles, there is a lot happening in here. So if we pop it into dynamic mode, one switch of the toggle in that direction, the gearbox to the left into sport, and the exhaust valve automatically opens up with that. Listen to this. Listen to this racket, the burbles, crackles, manually shift it down. What is going on behind us, and what a lovely day to be driving this car. It is, however, quite cold, so I do need to be very aware of traction issues potentially. But I love cars, you know, powerful front engine cars, and here with all-wheel drive, it's probably going to save me from anything should I, potentially mess up. You can put the power down early, yeah. Good traction, good grip, and just meandering backwards and forwards on these roads with that cacophony of noise going on behind. Now we get to a town, so we can pop it back into drive, into normal mode, the exhaust valve closes, we can slowly and discreetly slide on through without causing any inconvenience and irritation. But basically, it's quiet and refined in here actually. The ride isn't overly firm, these are some fairly big bumps right now, but it's not uncomfortable, not unpleasant, and it makes a complete whale of a noise when you do then put your foot down. Back into dynamic mode and sport then, and we can get a little bit more of this. On a day like today, this is a fantastic car to be driving. I love the sounds of it. It's so dramatic. When you do put your foot down, it is definitely at the loud end, but we're heading towards a section of de-restricted Autobahn where hopefully we can get more of a feel of what this power delivery is like, because to be quite honest, this is an awful lot for a normal road. When you do press your foot down on the throttle pedal, and I'm not going anywhere near full pressure at the moment, it just propels itself forward, and I don't want to get myself in any kind of trouble because, well, it's just outstandingly quick and very, very loud when you do that as well. In fact, the noise is quite frankly all-encompassing. It's everywhere around you. And so cool. So general F-Type comments, I'm not the biggest fan of the steering. Some people like it, some people not so much. I find it's almost not as direct as other sports cars might be. The brake pedal feel is really taking some getting used to as well. It's very, very, very sensitive. But when it comes to the throttle, I am barely pressing it at all, honestly. I've not gone anywhere near the floor yet, just because of how much power it has and how quickly it applies it. And with all-wheel drive, there's very, very little, if any, loss of traction, even on these roads that at the moment are a little bit wet and greasy. When you downshift, you get those crackles and snaps, barks, and all sorts of crazy noises out of it. This is fantastic. Onto the Autobahn then. We're actually joining at the very, very beginning of this stretch, so completely empty, in a straight line, foot down. Wow. 150 already. Move over to the left side, 200, 230, 240, and we've got some cars ahead, but the power delivery is very smooth up through the gears. It's very, very, very loud in here though. Woohoo! 250, 260, 270, 280, and we've got some cars, so let's get onto the brakes. Very, very, very quick, very noisy, but just with so much ease in the way it accelerates forward. Linear power completely. It's fifth gear, foot down, and away we go again, back to 250. Remarkably fast. Automatically up to 6th there, back to 270 again. The power is really smooth, honestly. Wow, you carry a lot of speed very comfortably. Steering feel at high speed is good. Brilliant Autobahn car. Absolutely brilliant. So let's just back it off a notch for a moment. Calm things down and get a little bit quieter. This stretch of road is just crazy that you can do that. Amazing experience. So that's actually blown me away how smooth it is and how quickly we get up to such dizzying speeds. Clearly 300 would be a walk in the park. Out we go again. Off we go again. It's so quick. 230 already, but we're going to gentle corners and then just take it a little bit easier. But even here it's very, very stable at speed. Back on the power, 240, 250, 260. Amazing feeling. Only in Germany at 260 do you crawl past another car. So an open straight though. Watching the numbers climb, 280. We're up towards 290. Some noise and sounds going on outside. Clearly this would do 300 without breaking a sweat. Into the 290s there. Woo! Okay, just let it ease, cruise and calm down a little bit. I mean, you can just drive this car so easily at high speed. One of the fun things is just the sound that it makes, and I apologise for the low sun, it is of course winter, but you press the throttle and it's an instant noise opener. It just gets the valves open and you have that very agricultural, rattly noise, but it somehow works. It's the character of the car. And yeah, we're coming into a speed limited section, so let's just back it off as we get towards the end of the Autobahn. Yeah, that was good fun. That was pretty crazy then, verging on 300 kilometers per hour in the AJ23 SVR, nowhere near even the VMAX. The number's still climbing pretty quickly, but it just shows you how easy that car can go about driving like that. But now it's time to take a better look at the interior and then also to hear the revs of this car, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, don your Google Cardboards, get ready to have a look around because I'm going to show you around the interior in virtual reality. So let's get in and take a look at the inside of this car. Here we are then. So, welcome to the interior of the car. Take a look around. We can run through some of the modifications that Arden have made to the car, as well as talk about the SVR in general. So we've got the starter button right in the center. I'm actually going to bring it into life. Because let's face it, who doesn't want to hear that sound? It's just a wonderful, wonderful noise. So the car is of course very sporty. For example, you have the Alcantara. If you look up here at the top of the dashboard, in the center, you get the Alcantara from Jaguar. So on the top of the air conditioning, on the binnacle cover for the instrument surround. But Arden have kind of taken that on a step. For example, they've done the top rolls of the doors as well to match, and also the steering wheel. So on the steering wheel, you have the Alcantara at the very top, as well as around the bottom with the Arden badging too, which is all just quite nice and brings in the theme. You've got the contrast stitching all around that you can see, for example, on the grab handle here for the passenger side. And if you take a look to your left right now, at the top of the seat backs, you also have the Arden embroidery that they've installed on the very top of that. Lower down on the seats, you get this nice perforation quilting on the SVR from factory as well. But basically in here, it's a nice, well-equipped, good technology, good place to be. And one thing I particularly like is the new trim that Arden have created around the centre console. So in the middle here, you can see up top and also behind the grab handle, you have this vaporized aluminium. It's shiny, it's glossy, it blends in more with the other touches around the car and also with the contrast stitching. So it's all a little bit more at home. And then obviously, as I mentioned earlier, right above me, this panoramic roof. This is really, really very nice. A significantly sized piece of glass to enjoy a day like today with the sunshine out. No complaints from me whatsoever. So on the steering wheel, I've got the controls to toggle my small display right in front of me. We have a slightly older style dual binnacle, I guess I can call it, with the speedometer and the rev counter as opposed to a large digital screen. But it ties in, it works pretty well, can't complain about that. We've got seats that move via the control panel on the door in all sorts of different directions. This car on the back obviously has the 8-speed automatic, so we've got this 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox. It's now become really very popular, but back when the F-Type was launched, I think this was one of the first installations of it. But it obviously works very well. It shifts incredibly quickly, it's very responsive, and it knows what gear you're going to want to be in. When you come up towards a corner and you're pressing the brake, it always seems to downshift exactly where you want it to end up. So a lot of credit to it for that. I like the way it works an awful lot. In the center console, we have a few different driving modes. So you have a toggle just to the left of the gear stick where you can select your different modes. You can put it into a more comfort mode, ice mode, back through the normal, or into dynamic, where it automatically opens the exhaust valves. So in the middle here you have traction control, exhaust, the spoiler, and auto stop start. So you've got access to all of those. Basically, I mean, it's a comfortable place to sit. The seats themselves are very nicely made. Right down in the footwell, you've also got Arden's own floor mats embroidered to match as per the seat design, also with the Arden logo, and again bringing those colours through, so you can see that all around. So yes, one interesting way to have a look through the interior with me here, the 2-seat configuration. You can see the rear window is quite sloped, so you can't actually see too much through it. But I tell you what we do need to do. I need to send you guys back around to the rear of the car to listen to the noise when we rev it with the titanium exhaust, the valves open in dynamic mode. Listen to this. What a tremendous sound, the thunderous roar of this V8. In fact, you don't actually have to rev it that high to get so much noise out of it. Have a listen. Not even 3,000 RPM, and that's how loud it is inside the cabin. But of course here you can see the speedometer, the rev counter, sandwiching the digital display in the center. And if that is too loud for you, you can actually control it. So if you use the mode selector and let's say you put it into normal or even into snow and ice mode, it closes the exhaust valve as well. Everything gets a little bit quieter. Or you can go back into dynamic and the exhaust valve opens back up. So you've got the traction control, the spoiler, auto stop start, your electronic handbrake all in here around the gear stick, and then a continuation of this trim that they've created for the car around the different toggles and controls. But for the time being, let's switch it off. We return to silence, the needle drops back down to 0, SVR logo in the center of the screen, and let's take a step outside just to explore the exterior a little bit more. Although one or two more things to quickly show you. You've got the door sills with the illuminated Arden logo in the center, and you also obviously have the bespoke floor mats that match in with the whole interior, and to be honest, that's all done very, very well. Of course, I'm a big fan of the Alcantara. You can see this in the sunshine now, and I think that fits very nicely with the original OEM components just to finish off the total look of the interior. So close the door for a moment. The door handles themselves are actually pretty trick. If you lock them, they hide away. If you unlock it, it pops back out. Or you can, if it was locked, let's say, just press the button on here, and it will unlock, and the mirrors are folding every time I do that, but you can see exactly how that works. The wheels down here, the 21-inch wheel, it's a forged wheel. You've actually got center locks as well, very motorsport inspired, and behind them you will notice the Jaguar carbon ceramic brakes as well. Now nobody's going to say this is a particularly light car, in fact it's not at all, but it is my favourite setup, a sporty Grand Tourer front-engined, in this case all-wheel drive, so it can be used any time around the year with no worries or concerns at all. I like how it's sitting just a touch lower, it significantly enhances the look, especially when you include the additional carbon fibre add-ons that are around the car and the finishing touches that Arden have made to the AJ23 SVR. So I have really quite enjoyed driving this car, to be honest. The ease with which it got to the speed automatically locking as I've stepped away with the key. I think it looks good still, even though it might not be the newest car on the market. Maybe there'll be another F-Type at some point in the future, but for now, this is definitely quite a force to be reckoned with. So I've had a lot of fun. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video, enjoyed seeing the car, and enjoyed enjoyed our virtual reality demonstration of the interior. As always, thanks to Arden for the opportunity to drive the car, and thanks to you guys for watching, and that's it for this time. I will see you again very soon. Cheers!